The 2023 NFL Draft has officially been wrapped up. With so much hype in every draft nowadays, I decided for this video to go look back at the previous 10 NFL drafts and determine the best and worst players from each of those classes. But before we look at those, I gotta show you guys my epic experience at the 2023 NFL Draft. So my buddy and I were sent out to Kansas City for the draft by SeatGeek and the Arizona Cardinals. And they hooked us up with so much cool stuff. We arrived at the hotel and were greeted with a bunch of free gear. So even though I'm a Browns fan, I rocked the Cardinals jersey and hat, at least for day one. When we got to our seats, which were basically front row, we had a Tony Gonzalez signed football among other things, just casually sitting there. So that was pretty epic. For those of you who've never attended the NFL Draft, you should know that it's a non-stop party for 3 days. And this year's draft saw over 300,000 people show up on site. We even got to go backstage and check out where the prospects were hanging out. I even stood at the podium where the picks were announced. Probably one of the coolest things about this experience was after the players were selected, they walked right past us. It was pretty hype. I'm curious, are you guys happy with who your team's drafted? Let me know down below. Also, if you want to go watch these guys play this coming fall, you can purchase tickets via SeatGeek. Use code KTO for $20 off your first purchase. Once again, huge shout out to SeatGeek and the Arizona Cardinals for hooking us up. This was an awesome experience.
Good evening, and welcome everybody to the 2013 NFL Draft.
The 2013 NFL Draft is regarded as one of the worst classes in recent memory. In my video a few weeks ago, I showed just how poorly it is done. But with that said, every first round still has a few hits. Lane Johnson and Travis Frederick have been two of the best offensive linemen in the game, combining for 9 Pro Bowl appearances. But the player with the highest approximate career value is DeAndre Hopkins. With 3 first-team All-Pros and 5 Pro Bowl appearances, Hopkins has been a top 5 receiver for most of his career, with some of the best hands we've ever seen. But like I said, this class for the most part is a forgettable one. Out of the 32 first rounders from 2013, nearly half started 2 years or less. And among these mostly backups at best was the unfortunate Dee Milliner. Milliner was a highly touted corner out of Alabama who went 9th overall to the Jets. But early in year 2, he suffered a torn Achilles, one of the worst possible injuries one can endure. Its recovery time is long, and most never return fully to their previous ability. Milliner was limited to just 21 career games before that Achilles injury and a broken wrist later on effectively ended his career in just 3 seasons. 2014. This first round as a whole was a huge step up talent-wise. It featured a much more consistent top 10 than 2013, and 17 of the 32 picks made at least a Pro Bowl in their career. The premier talent from this year included Khalil Mack, Mike Evans, CJ Mosley, Anthony Barr, and Zach Martin, each of whom have made at least 4 Pro Bowls. But amazingly, the best player from this draft completely separates himself, and that is Aaron Donald. As a 7-time first-team All-Pro and 3-time Defensive Player of the Year, there's no doubt this dude is one of the greatest players to ever step on a football field. Despite being shorter than the average D tackle, Donald's freakish strength and explosiveness makes him unblockable. This dude is a total beast. But now, let's look at the opposite side of the 2014 first round. 5 players from this round never became majority starters in their career, and the 2 worst just so happened to be drafted by the same team, the Cleveland Browns. Look, I know it's the Browns, but it's still pretty insane how in such a stacked class, their 2 first-round picks ended up being the absolute worst. Justin Gilbert was a corner who couldn't tackle, constantly missed meetings, and was out of the league in 3 years. And more infamously, Johnny Manziel has to be the most notorious burnout story of this generation. After some projected him to go as high as number 1 overall, Johnny Football never took his opportunity in Cleveland seriously. He kept partying, checked into rehab after his rookie season, and was cut from the team after just 2 years. 2015. This was a year hyped up for its top two quarterbacks, Jameis Winston and Marcus Mariota, but kind of like how their careers have gone, this first round was pretty underwhelming. Just about a third of the players drafted made at least a Pro Bowl. At the top of this class, we have Amari Cooper, Todd Gurley before getting injured, along with Andrus Peat, have each made 3 Pro Bowls. But the number one player in terms of AV is Marcus Peters. Peters is currently tied for 4th in career interceptions among active players. He is a big-time trash talker who's gotten himself into trouble with the way he plays, but there's no denying his impact when he's on. You could also argue the best player in this first round is Brandon Scherff, who's just been a consistently great offensive lineman throughout his career, with 5 Pro Bowls to his name. But on the other side of the spectrum, 6 guys from this first round started a year or less, which includes 3 wide receivers, and Kevin White had the roughest road of them all. Kevin White was a tall, big-time playmaker coming out of college, and he received comparisons to Julio Jones. But after going 7th overall to the Bears, White would become known as one of the guys who just couldn't stay healthy. In his first 3 years, he landed on injured reserve early into each season. In his best season, he only caught 19 passes. Somehow, he's been able to stay in the NFL all the way through 2022 as a backup, but he's made very little impact on the field, more so spending time on the practice squad in recent years over anything. 2016. Once again, this was another hyped quarterback year with Jared Goff and Carson Wentz. For about a year, Wentz was the man before falling off, and Goff has been good, not great, which is why the Rams shipped him out for Matthew Stafford. Overall, because Goff has started almost the entirety of his career and has a multitude of top 10 level seasons, this has him ranked with the highest career AV among 2016 first rounders. But I wouldn't say he's been a better player than 5th overall pick Jalen Ramsey. Ramsey is a 3-time first team All-Pro and 6-time Pro Bowler, and has been the best corner in football for the majority of his career. He's big and physical with elite measurables, and shuts down almost everybody he covers. Now, at the bottom of this year's first round is a quarterback who barely ever saw the field. The 6'7" Paxton Lynch was seen as a true boom or bust because of how big and athletic he was, despite being extremely raw, immature, and not ready for the pros right away. In just 2 years, he only played in 5 games, and was bad enough that the team didn't dare let him play more, and he was out of the NFL after that. 2017. This will forever be known as the year that the Bears traded up to number 2 from number 3 and selected Mitch Trubisky instead of Patrick Mahomes. Overall, Patrick Mahomes is definitely the best player from this class as a whole. Among the 13 Pro Bowlers so far from this first round, Myles Garrett and TJ Watt lead a really solid group of defensive players. But for the bottom of this class, after an insane combine performance, wide receiver John Ross ranks dead last in career AV from this first round. He was only a majority starter for 1 year and has less than 1,000 career receiving yards. His elite speed never panned out, and only 2 players from this first round played in less career games. Reuben Foster, after a decent start to his career, found himself out of the league after only making an appearance in 2 seasons. This was due to a string of off-the-field incidents combined with a brutal knee injury in 2019. 2018. With one of the largest quarterback classes the NFL had seen in decades, the performances of these 5 dudes kinda summarizes this class. 2 studs, 1 average, 1 below average, and 1 true bust at quarterback. Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen are both freaks, and are neck and neck in terms of career AV. Both were considered projects when they entered the NFL, and each have shown that their unique skill sets can work in the league. As time goes on, we are all waiting to see if either of them can take the next step in the playoffs. On the other side of the spectrum, Josh Rosen comes in dead last in career AV. He entered the NFL fitting the mold of the classical pocket passer, but Rosen just never wowed anyone once he reached the NFL. After a disappointing rookie season, the Cardinals were ready to move on and selected Kyler Murray, and since then, Rosen hasn't impressed anybody enough to become a full-time starter. As far as non-quarterbacks go, Quentin Nelson has been incredible for the Colts, while Mike Hughes never developed into a full-time starter in Minnesota. 2019. First off, I find it absolutely wild that a Josh Allen went 7th overall in back-to-back years. That's just too much of a coincidence for me. But anyways, the members of this 2019 class are entering their 5th year in the NFL, meaning that we have a pretty solid idea of who these guys are as players. Kyler Murray comes out on top in terms of career AV, but he's a unique story because he's had 2 great seasons, then has kind of fallen off a bit after a hot start. As far as defensive players go, Nick Bosa is a true standout, with 3 Pro Bowls already to his name. He's been absolutely dominant and is a key reason why the 49ers defense has been so dominant. Now, for this next part, I do want to mention that the 2019 and 2020's first round have similar real-life tragedies. Dwayne Haskins and Jeff Gladney both died by separate car-related accidents. They were both under the age of 26. It doesn't feel right to talk about their football careers, so I'm just going to move on to the high point of 2020 and leave it at that. Rest in peace, Dwayne Haskins and Jeff Gladney. In just 3 NFL seasons, we've seen some offensive superstars emerge from this 2020 class: Joe Burrow, Justin Jefferson, and Justin Herbert. Herbert has been the most impressive quarterback statistically. Jefferson's been the only player to make 3 Pro Bowls in those 3 years, and Joe Burrow is probably the best player from 2020, considering how he helped turn the Bengals around and got them to back-to-back AFC championships and a Super Bowl appearance. The only defensive player to make a Pro Bowl from this first round so far is 2nd overall pick Chase Young, who's dealt with some injuries early into his career. 2021. As we get closer and closer to today, it's harder to judge these players since they've hardly been in the NFL, but we have seen a few standouts. 9 players from this class have made Pro Bowls already, with the top offensive player being Ja'Marr Chase and the best defensive player being Micah Parsons. Chase has already earned a top 5 receiver reputation, with his incredible blend of speed, elusiveness, hands, and chemistry with his former college teammate Joe Burrow. And Parsons? Well, this dude is just on another level. In just 2 seasons, he's been named first team All-Pro twice. It's almost like the moment he stepped on the field for Dallas, their defense went from a liability to a juggernaut. He's arguably the best defensive player in football already. 2022, we've only seen 1 season from these guys, so most of them fall into the "we can't quite tell what they're going to be yet" category. Lewis Cine is currently at the bottom in terms of AV, but this was due to an injury, so he still has plenty of time to turn things around. Now, as far as success stories, kind of like Micah Parsons, Sauce Gardner is on another level. In terms of AV, Gardner separated himself from all other rookies in 2022. He's already proven to be the best corner prospect in years. His confidence and shutdown ability helped the Jets defense go from dead last in scoring defense to 4th in just 1 year. And with Aaron Rodgers and company entering the building, you gotta wonder, how far can this Jets team go in 2023?
Allen has time. Intercepted! Sauce Gardner's got it! And the Jets are in business inside the Buffalo 20.